You don't work a job, you rent your soul. Modern work isn't just labor, it's a temporary lease on your identity. Most jobs are now demanding more than time. They demand, emotional energy, your personality. They demand an extended mental bandwidth. It's becoming all consuming to people, right? And people are suppressing themselves just to fit into the workplace, right? They feel a need to fit into a mold that satisfies their employer. And any of us that have worked a job, which is probably 99% of the people that are going to watch this video, understand that this is true, right? You go in and you have to pretend that to get along and be cordial with these people, that it's not that you dislike them, but you don't really care for them much, right? You have to change the way that you act, your personality, right? Your overall expressions of enjoyment, or just like basic things. You need to always keep this mask on, this facade, and it's just exhausting, man. We've all been there. It's absolutely exhausting. And I feel like, workers are being valued for what they are and not who they are, right? It's all about their productivity. It's all about compliance. It's all about output. Because at the end of the day, money needs to be made by these corporations. There's actually a stat that I saw that said the average employee profits a company 4 times more than their salary. So you're getting paid a fraction of the actual profit that the company, or revenue that the company will make from the labor that you've done. And so I know this is normal for a capitalist economy, but it's just dehumanizing. And I think we all intuitively know this, right? When you go to work every day, it's like, oh my gosh, man, I can't stand it. And something that I wanted to talk about was that, in the workplace, like, okay, when I was a kid in high school, and when I just turned 16 and could get a job, I remember getting this job, and it was like a bunch of other like high school kids worked at this job. So it was all of us like young kids that were doing it. It was at Panera. And, the job wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It just kind of was like a, fast food. It just kind of sucked. But there were times where there would be no manager, and it would just be us kids. And oh my gosh, it was so much fun. Even though we were on the clock and like the job was weird, we were just talking with each other. We were just having so much fun. And the reason that was because we weren't pretending, right? We were just like being ourselves, because there was no manager. There was no one telling us what to do. And I feel like that's a canon event, and it sucks that some people didn't get to experience that. I feel like most people did, though. It's like you work kind of a trash job, but you do it with people that you have a lot of fun with, and then, when there's no supervision, it's like it just becomes really enjoyable. And that's what's changed now as I've become an adult. And it's like now we can't do that anymore. Now it's like when you go into corporate America, or you get like higher earning jobs, there's always somebody that's monitoring you and breathing down your neck. The real cost of the job is not just the time that you're spending there in exchange for a paycheck. It's the parts of yourself that you're giving up just to survive. Right? It's when you have to put on this facade, when you have to emotionally change how you're interacting with people against your like true self. This is where the exhaustion really comes in. And nobody, I don't know why, it seems like a thing that people aren't really talking about, right? People are sacrificing their passion, their authenticity, and their values just for stability. And I wouldn't even call it stability, bro. Like, most of us are like on a rocky surface right now, right? Most people are just barely scrapping by. Most people are barely scrapping by. And what's crazy is that the money we're getting in exchange is, for most people, nothing. It's not good money. I used to work this factory job, like straight out of a movie, just like in this giant warehouse where there's like a bunch of machines, and you get your little sector that you work in, and you're alone. And oh my gosh, this was miserable beyond miserable. Like, guys, I worked the night shift. So I would get in there at, I think it started at like 8 or 9 p.m. And then you would leave at around like 4 or 5 a.m. And so I would just sit in this like dark little area by myself, and it was like labor intensive. So I was lifting heavy packages and like stacking them, and I would do that over and over again. So I'm just walking to one side, picking up a thing, walking to the other side, dropping it. But most of the stuff was big and heavy, and it sucked. And like it just like I was exhausted at the end of my shift every single time. And what's crazy about it is like, okay, you finally get this time off, right? And so you would want to spend your time off with friends or family, but the problem is you're so exhausted from working that entire shift and having to keep up a facade when you really just want to like scream. That now that you're off, you're too tired, you're too exhausted to go spend the time with your family and friends. And that's the point where we've gotten with society. And like part of me is really hoping that this AI boom happens and can just stop us from having to work these jobs. But then another part of me is scared that it's going to make it only worse. That is something that I'm worried about. And we all know it. Since we're kids in school, they're basically breeding us to be workers, and they're brainwashing us to almost normalize the dynamic, right? They say like, be professional, you know, don't show emotion, leave yourself at the door. Like they just want workers. That is the bottom line. And if you look into Rockefeller, who founded the education board, he literally has been quoted multiple times by saying, I'm in the business of building workers, not thinkers. And he said they'll be too busy working to make money. And what he meant by that is like, you know, when you're an employee, you don't make any real money. And so you're going to be exhausted. Like I was just saying earlier in the video, you're going to be exhausted from working all day that you won't have time to like start your own endeavor where you can actually make legitimate, like good cash. And so it's so obvious, man. It's so obvious. And listen, so I have 1 semester left before I graduate college. I've learned nothing. They've just tried to condition me into a worker, brain dead, like economy guy. You know, I'm getting a major in marketing and economy, and I've learned absolutely nothing. And it's just like, all this feeds into this idea that it's like, you know, they're sucking the soul out of you, right? You're renting who you are, your soul, in exchange for barely enough money to scrape by. And that's the human experience at this point, at least in the communities that I've ever lived in. And I think that you need to know when your job becomes all consuming. You need to know. A lot of people are just sort of like, I hate to use the term NPC because it's such an overused word, but it fits well here. Like they're not thinking for themselves at all. They're just programmed. They're not like, does this make sense for me to do this? No. They're not thinking about that at all. It's ridiculous. I think you need to set boundaries, man. You need to pursue meaningful work. You need to rediscover your identity outside of the workplace. These are things that need to be done. But the problem is, and I'm saying that as somebody who struggles with this, with actually applying those concepts that I just mentioned myself, because it's like at the end of the day, you still need to pay the bills. That's still something that needs to get done. Just remember, guys, you should never be trading who you are just to exist. Because that's what it is. When you're getting money at these jobs, you're not doing it because you like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get money so I can like go spend it on fun things. No, you're not doing that. You're getting the money so that you can pay for your rent and your food and put food on the table for the family. That is the reality that we're living in. And I am like waiting for a new revolution to happen. I know that seems dramatic, but like, because we gotta shake people out of apathy somehow, right? We need to change up the system somehow. These are just my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching.